God of War is a soft reboot made by this returning developer, Cory Barlog, who made God of War 2 and the first half of God of War 3. The old games were essentially about Kratos getting his vengeance on Greek gods, and now it's about him bonding with his son as it evolves into him getting Father of the Year award. Cory said that getting older and having a son made him explore concepts of strength and emotional vulnerability and the ability to be sort of free to feel the range of emotions, and he wanted to do this through Kratos, who's been broken emotionally. Now, the reaction to this game has been universally acclaimed, praising its combat, narrative, graphics, and what have you, and the game did a fantastic job with its AI companion, Atreus. In this episode of Player's Narrative, I'll be exploring how Cory and his team show the bond not only through cutscenes, but also through game mechanics, which is the language of video games. In order to create an emotional bond between a game, developers turn to the idea of having a player character accompanied by a second character. More often than not, supporting characters at its best are forgettable, at worst, hindrance, like Ashley from Resident Evil 4, or Trip from Enslaved. Animal companions are usually a great addition to gaming as they don't talk or deliver spiffy one-liners or tell you about missing horse girlfriends, except for the occasional nigh. A strong bond can be forged between the companion with presence by constantly being part of our experience. We get used to them to the point that their absence hurts the emotional bond we might form with them and the game. Just like how in Last of Us, Ellie has to stay back and Joel has to wander around in certain sections. Games like Eco and The Last Guardian explore what it's like to protect your loved ones and pet animals using gameplay. Mark Brown over at Game Maker's Toolkit did a good video on this, check that out. The Last of Us and Bioshock build relationships predominantly through cutscenes, but your immersion is broken when there's an unabating disconnect between what happens in cutscenes and gameplay, as Elizabeth is invincible and Ellie's AI on the enemies isn't exactly award-winning. Sometimes combat between cinematic cutscenes that bleed into game seamlessly can convey as the relationship between the companions. Outside of the combat, other pillars like exploration and puzzles are designed with Atreus in mind. Kratos can't solve the language ciphers or read runes without Atreus, and Atreus can't climb or get gear without Kratos. Now the square button is dedicated to the boy and the player controls it passively. Atreus can shoot different types of arrows during combat and exploration. This is established as a game mechanic early on. Whenever Kratos wants to stun or distract an enemy, Atreus is just a button press away. This makes companion be useful in combat and not hide behind covers or be invincible. Both The Last of Us and God of War have a similar mechanic where Ellie or Atreus are overpowered by an enemy, the player needs to stop what they're doing and go rescue them. But with a dedicated button when you're conditioned to one rule of the boy shooting arrows on command. So after this scene,
watch your tone, boy.
Whatever.
we know Atreus has become cocky and insolent, which leads into this room. Atreus starts attacking on his own and shows Kratos his rude tone by being insolent.
Have you forgotten your training?
Oh, are you talking to me? Thought you didn't like the tone.
It's not only shown in cutscenes, but also felt through breaking an established mechanic that there's friction between the two characters. Which hits home more than say how Lara says she doesn't like killing people and the next minute we're given player agency to become a mass murderer. There's always a need to balance emotion and practicability when designing a companion character. Here's Cory Barlog explaining IGN how they achieved that.
It was a delicate part there because, we needed people to see he was going off the rails. And he was going off the rails because Dad was just letting it go. That moment was going to have more sort of ornery, defiant Atreus, to where if he pressed a button, he wouldn't respond at all. And we ended up pulling a lot of that back because it started to become like you just got some new mechanics and he's not paying attention to anything. And then immediately afterwards, he pays attention during the puzzles. So we found a nice push and pull of that to ensure that he still felt like he was a jerk, but there's always that risk of like, I don't want to talk to him anymore at all. Like even when he becomes not a jerk, I'm so angry with him.
Video games can be a medium of 3 dimensions where text can be used like books, cinematics can be used like movies, and interactivity adds another dimension like game mechanics to show an emotional bond or the relationship between characters, which is the unique thing about video games. To achieve that, a good companion must be useful like the way Aggro would always come running up to me during a Colossus fight. This shows that he cared for me, so losing Aggro at the end of the game was a poignant moment for me. It's seen in many key moments in God of War, like when Atreus resurrects you during combat, and how you can do the same when Atreus is incapacitated. He can also find you healing stones and strangle enemies that you've weakened. Companion characters should be an integral part of the game where you can't progress without them. If you can progress without them, it would diminish their value, but also shouldn't be a burden to the player. The only missed opportunity here is using the same button during platforming, but I'm no developer, so I don't know what I'm talking about. God of War doesn't design a whole game around the relationship. It uses one mechanic that's used in critical moments to make the player feel the bond between them and the secondary character. A good companion should be a conduit, linking the player to the fiction they've entered. They show us the strength we need to have in this new world, or provide us with useful skills that we lack in order to endure and survive. And in doing so, attain the ultimate gaming goal, convincing us that the fiction is real, through the language or vernacular of video games. Hey, thanks for watching. If you wish to support my channel, be sure to subscribe and like the video. Let me know what game mechanics made you have the same emotional impact with a companion character in the comment section below. There are other games that speak through game mechanics, of course, like Untailed, Risk of Rain, and a bunch of others.